All right, and we're live with a collaborative episode. So basically, this is like the first PCC collab episode I've ever done. And, basically, a lot of recent things have happened. And so, here to stop by today is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source to give some perspective into pop culture, especially with what's happening on TV. So how you doing today, Gerald?
I'm doing well. Just glad to be here. It's funny because I am on the other side around on this time, so it's kind of funny. So it's kind of different.
I mean, it is kind of different. So yeah. So the first topic of the day is basically we got WWE's latest ratings.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, SmackDown with 2.2 million, Raw with less than 2 million, NXT around 800,000, and AEW a little over 1 million viewers.
Well, I could tell you right now for SmackDown though, their overnights are the best in 5 months, so that's at least a plus on the plus side for them. So I think that the storyline of Roman Reigns coming back. People, I know people like myself have always questioned, his popularity or what can he do for ratings. At least for now, he's showing that his presence on the show can boost ratings.
I mean, he did have a recent heel turn.
Yes.
Which is starting from SummerSlam onto like recent episodes of SmackDown.
Yes. So it's something that was long overdue. Something that I know a lot of people were asking for, something he was very reluctant to do, something the company was very reluctant to do, but I think it was the right move. I wasn't sure if it was too little too late, but it looks like at least in the short term, that it was something that was to benefit the WWE. So,
Plus also recently you got Retribution. And the biggest theory on it is two of the leaders, one of them might be CM Punk and the other one might be AJ Lee. So it could be a shocker if they both return.
I really think if CM Punk returns, I don't want to say never, because in the professional wrestling industry, you never say never, because even the hardest of grudges, you've seen where people have mended fences, but with CM Punk and WWE, where they just came off of a lawsuit against each other that took several years to take place, there's a lot of hard feelings there. I know he was working on the backstage, but that was for Fox. It was not for WWE, and WWE was very quick to tell people that he was a Fox employee and not a WWE employee. So, like I said, I'm not going to say never, because I think eventually it may happen. I'm just saying right now it would be it would be very hard for me to see him come back soon.
Is what given with the Retribution angle that has been going on with Raw and SmackDown, they first cut their first promo. Originally it was 6, but now they're 5 members of Retribution. And I have a feeling they're going to save it for the big moment for next year, when everybody is unmasked as members of Retribution.
Well, that's I think it'll be some of the members of that were recently let go. They're brought back. That would be my guess, along with some unused members of the I guess, let's say the NXT or developmental. So I'd probably say it'd be a combination of that.
At least one, I do believe, is a member of Retribution. It's just they're not saying the name.
Of course.
So recent news has came out about AEW and the return of Rusev, who is now going by Miro.
Mm-hmm.
So the
This was
Bavarian.
well. This wasn't too much of a surprise. I mean, at this point, AEW is now getting into a nasty habit of being one of the places for WWE. I don't want to say people that the WWE let go, where they seem to end up. Now, mind you, a little bit. Some are going to Impact, some are going to Ring of Honor, et cetera, et cetera. But AEW wants to go ahead and blend in some of this ex WWE talent with some of their own talent that they're trying to develop. It just gets to a point where's the balance of that, and the more ex WWE people you bring in, the less identity you'll have.
Well, yeah, I feel like recently the AEW is getting over 1 million viewers as of the latest ratings. So obviously, they're doing something right as far as storyline goes.
Absolutely. It's a very interesting product to a lot of people. It has a lot of freshness to it. To some, there are some characters and some storylines that I would, do differently. MGF not getting the title, I think, was something that was a mistake, because I think like he claims, I think it's a reality that many insiders think that he is the future of this business, which I agree. I think he's got one of those rare qualities as far as having a lot to bring to the table that I think needs to be protected. And him losing recently to John Moxley was not in the best interest for his career, and I don't think AEW's as well.
Oh yeah, like going into like the theory with recent ratings with the WWE, with SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. What went right and what went wrong?
Well, I mean, right now you can say that I think the Wednesday competition head to head, I think that's the first thing that you would look at, saying, you know what, somebody needs to make a change, and I think it should be NXT. NXT, due to the NHL playoffs, has had to move to Tuesdays on occasion, and has done fairly well there. So my contention would be maybe NXT should move off of the Wednesday battle with AEW, and instead of trying to go head to head, maybe try to establish themselves, because NXT, when it was becoming something of its own, viable entry, it just seemed like a lot of people were really behind it, and I don't see as many people being behind it at this point in time, because they just feel like it was just thrown in there to go ahead and be a distraction against AEW. And I think if they are to treat it better long term, they need to make it into a viable entry, like they did this time last year and this time 2 years ago, where they were going ahead and having full houses for their pay-per-views, and having a viable product that a lot of people were interested in. And they need to go ahead and once again just reevaluate themselves. Are they going to go ahead and have a focus on themselves as an entity? And if so, I think a move permanently to either a Tuesday or a Thursday night would be the best move for them.
Yeah, I do agree. When you look at the Raw ratings, we did say like a few weeks ago that it was doing a lot. It was doing better like after SummerSlam, but after that, it just seems like the momentum is probably dead at the moment for Raw.
It's something that, like I said, they have to seriously evaluate what's going on. The Raw product, from a men's standpoint, is it's just not there. They don't have the viable. Well, the whole company in and of itself is trying to find that one superstar that they can go ahead and hang their hat on, like they've had in the past. But right now they don't have that. Roman Reigns does get you a little bit of bump up in the numbers, obviously, but I don't think he's the individual that a lot of people want to say, hey, he's the person that they should go behind long term. He's just the best out of a bad situation right now. But with Raw, they need to go ahead and do something. I mean, obviously, from a women's standpoint, they've been doing very well. Asuka is one of the best workers on the planet and is proving so each and every week. But I don't know if she has enough competition right now because two of her main competitors are now the tag team champions. So we'll see if they go ahead and have a storyline together once again. And then also you have the breakup finally of Bayley and Sasha Banks, which now will pit them back on the SmackDown side, and eventually that I'm assuming will somehow lead to a match at the Royal Rumble, or maybe even Survivor Series. I'm going to say that they're going to not hold it off and do it at Survivor Series, which I think this is something that they could have done if they planned it out longer term. Could have done for maybe a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania, but we'll wait and see.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like after the WWE shakeup or draft, that could happen. I could see one of them going back to Raw, at least.
Well, but they've got to have their feud first. So with Bayley and Sasha Banks, they've got to have their feud, and I think that Sasha Banks will eventually defeat Bayley for that title because it's closing in on a year for Bayley. So I know there's going to be that mystique of having her, give up the belt, but. And that's basically one of the most interesting storylines that WWE has to offer right now. But for the Raw side, there is really no storylines to draw people in. You've got some quality competitors there, but you just don't have anything that's asking people, hey, we need to go ahead and check this out each and every week or we're going to miss something. You just don't have that right now with WWE on Raw.
It's I kind of know how I feel. It's kind of like, people are getting tired of the Monday Night Messiah shtick with Dominic Mysterio.
Well, it's just how much do you believe that a rookie, fresh, even though he fresh from the training and the whatnot, is going to become a viable contender to someone who has been put up in a lofty status such as Seth Rollins. I understand Rey Mysterio is his dad, and Rey Mysterio is one of the best to ever do it, and I appreciate his work. But it just comes down to the point where, what do you think is going to happen in regards to Dominic's career? I mean, that's great that he's been put in such a good spot, at least to start off with, and he's been performing well. I really appreciate his work, but it just comes down to, again, storylines and the fact that right now they're dragging out this Dominic Mysterio, Seth Rollins storyline a little bit too long. But they really don't have much to work with right now, at least on the men's side of the slate and Raw. So at this point, it's anyone's game. I mean, just nothing is really capturing the audience's imagination on Raw, which is why I think that their ratings are down. I mean, again, Asuka has been terrific, but she's been terrific against individuals that are on SmackDown. So there's really no competition for her right now at this point. So she doesn't really have much to work with. And Drew McIntyre, seems like a great guy, seems like a nice guy, seems like a worthy champion, but unfortunately he's not able to go ahead. He doesn't have that it factor that I think the WWE sorely needs right now.
Well, yeah, and you still have that Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton storyline in the mix on and off, especially on Raw. And even then, it's not enough to pull viewers.
And Randy Orton is someone who people think is, just one of the top competitors always, and he should always be at near the top. But the guy doesn't have that way of charisma. The guy doesn't bring in new fans. The guy's believable as a tough guy and a top competitor, but he's just not the individual that's going to bring in a new audience. I mean, they've tried to put him as champion before, time and time and time again. And there's a reason why he's been championed time and time and time again, because they've kept on going back to the drawing board with him, and it's not quite worked out. And he doesn't change his character too much. He's not that type to, he's not a Chris Jericho where he's going to rebirth a new character that's going to get over and over and over. He's just who he is. And yes, he's a great internet meme with the RKO, but right now he's just a great internet meme with the RKO. And that's not going to go ahead and bring in more viewers, which you want right now for Raw.
Well, yeah, I agree too. And eventually he's going to need to have some new moves besides the RKO.
Well, he's already in his 40s, so I don't think he's going to deviate much from who he is. It's Raw trying to find, well, sometimes, let's put it this way. When the Attitude Era did what it did, when you had Austin and Rock and DX and WWE is averaging 5-7 million viewers, each and every week, a lot of it was luck. A lot of it was luck that they fell into, and then they were able to go ahead and perpetuate storylines with good ways of going ahead and surprising people each and every week with what they were doing. Right now, they just haven't been able to fall into a case where there's that one individual or two individuals that they can really rally a company behind, and that's the problem in and of itself. They just don't. This is a down period and down years for wrestling as far as finding that one or two individuals that you can carry company with.
It's like this one huge star with like the it factor.
Yeah, you just don't have that now. Yeah, tell me who has that. I mean, in AEW, and I'm not, like I say right now, I still think WWE has the better product of the two as far as, because they just have the better roster. But, MJF in AEW, to me, and to a lot of other people, has that it factor. So again, him losing this past weekend may have been a mistake for AEW going forward, because you just see, and even though he's a bad guy, a lot of people just drawn in by what he has to say. And that is the key to going ahead and becoming one of the top people in the industry.
So yeah, now that this WWE and wrestling shtick is kind of like over, we're going to go into the September TV update, starting with CBS.
Well, CBS, they've got, right now, when it comes down to the fall schedule, it's kind of hard and difficult for anyone out there to say what's going to go on because of production delays with the coronavirus and things of that nature. I know CBS didn't get off to the greatest of starts, because you see what happened with Mother and that show with Anna Faris suddenly leaving. I don't know if it's over money. I don't know if it's over a storyline. I don't know what it was over, creative differences. I mean, there's a lot of speculation that's going on in regards to it. But yeah, there's something that right there, when you're going back into production and your star walks off the stage, so to speak, it becomes very troublesome for CBS, at least with a solid long-term, long-running hit that you have in Mother, and that's very difficult. Very difficult for CBS, especially when production on all these shows is not underway as of yet. I know that NCIS, I think, is being pushed back as far as a start date till November, I think is what I saw. And there's still some other shows that are not coming out until November. So we're going to have to wait and see. But Mother, losing Anna Faris, is a big hit. It's not the most popular show on CBS, but it's when you have those long foundation running shows and you lose your main star, and essentially Mother is now dead from this point out, unless you can have Mother herself become the rally. People will rally around her, which I'm not sure of, because to me that show clicked only because of the bond between mother and daughter.
Well, yeah. So basically, as you've seen in recent weeks, you see the Big Brother 1849 demo basically posting viewership and demo wins for 2020, although it's not the same as it was in its heyday. But hey, you also have shows that are coming out in the fall. Star Trek Discovery and One Day at a Time. And you probably have like most of your fall mainstays in there.
You got to mention that Star Trek Discovery is from season 1. They're not showing Star Trek Discovery 3, which just got a trailer and it's going to drop next month on CBS All Access. I personally disagree with the decision to show Discovery season 1. They should have already shown season 1 and season 2 already. They should have already had Discovery to the point where it was already established on CBS. I think that should have been a CBS show all along. And I think that's something that they should have gone ahead and stuck with as a CBS show, as opposed to putting it on All Access. Now, Picard and, everything else that they're going to be doing, that's okay to put it on All Access, I think, to establish that. But CBS should have gone ahead and put Star Trek Discovery season 1 already and season 2 already on the network, because I thought season 3 would be a great place to land on CBS to go ahead and fill out their schedule.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well. But it's kind of like one of those patterns where you just have shows that are already produced. Even it could be like as well as like a year ago, due to the COVID situation. So basically CBS is thinking they hope to have like all the returning shows that they're producing right now by November. And I have a theory on this. I don't think that they're going to have everything by November. They're going to push it to December or January, because you do have spikes in COVID cases right now, due to the fact that people are back in school and there's not enough social distancing going on, and people are refusing to wear masks. But that's my spiel on that. Moving on to NBC. Really the only thing that is pretty puzzling about this fall schedule is the Weakest Link revival. I don't know who decided to put a revival of the Weakest Link on there when it didn't really do well in the later runs to begin with. But they're trying to see if Jane Lynch is going to carry the whole entire show with a bunch of classes.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there truly anything original in Hollywood ever now these days? I mean, we talked about seeing Wipeout before in the past, and guess what? TBS has Wipeout. So,
but under a different name.
Well, not necessarily. It's still Wipeout, from what I'm understanding. So, it's with John Cena, as my daughter would say. So, I mean, it is supposed to be Wipeout, from what I'm understanding under TBS. So, but I will say this, to Hollywood, with so many, with all the broadcasts, with all the streaming, with all the cable networks that are out there, they're all trying to find content, and it's hard to find original content. There is some sprinkled in, obviously, but rehashing and rebooting all these shows, like we're seeing The Fresh Prince get already a 2-season pickup already as a drama, before it's even out yet. So, I mean, just all this interest into it. And, like I said, it's real easy to go ahead and take this old property, which was kind of successful back in the day. And you know what? We're going to just freshen up a little bit. And Jane Lynch, she has done game shows before, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, it's Hollywood Game Night.
Yeah,
and
so
it was pulled off the schedule, I do recall, and it pulled like 0.2s on a Sunday.
No, it's not great.
Which is not great for NBC to begin with. It's even worse when you're basically in lower tier CW territory on NBC, which is pretty embarrassing,
Yeah.
I gotta say.
But Jane Lynch, I like. She's very funny, and she's had a great career. So I'm hoping for the best for her with this new venture. Well, rebooted venture, I should say.
It's like moving on to ABC. It seems like the only returning shows that I'm seeing with ABC are going to be the scripted comedies that are returning in October. With 3 of the comedies, Blackish, The Conners, and The Goldbergs all returning on the 21st, and American Housewife on the 28th. So yeah, they're going to have an unscripted schedule in September, Bachelorette in October. So pretty much most of the returning lineup is pretty much going into spring. So they're probably relying on the comedies at this point, which have been recently going through a slight downward trend, given that it's 2020. And also, that could also depend on the production schedule with it. So I won't be surprised if this changes and everything else.
I wouldn't be surprised as well. I mean, obviously everything is in a state of flux, and all it takes is just one positive case to go ahead and delay everything, as we've seen so far in not only the television production world, the film production world, sports, what have you. All it takes is one positive case.
Yeah, with all this situation going on, it's kind of, I don't know how to put this, but it is in flux. And it depends on the testing as well when it comes to filming sites.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to Fox. They acquired, I feel like they're the most prepared by playing it safe by putting shows already completed. When you have LA's Finest going on the schedule, plus the 2 shows that were originally for the previous season going into fall, which is Next and Filthy Rich. They've already completed production of their 13-episode seasons. And then you got The Masked Singer, which is pretty much in flux. That's currently in production.
Oh, that's something they're going to push out. That's something which they're going to go ahead with every possible way, try to push out. I mean, the reality competition shows that you see out there that are really popular, they're going to do everything they can, like Dancing with the Stars and whatnot, Masked Singer and whatnot. They're really going to try and push those out and do whatever's necessary because they bring in viewers. They're proven now over the past 20 years to bring in viewers, and they're going to do everything they can to go ahead on all these networks which have them, is to bring in viewers as much as possible. And by going ahead and prioritizing those over scripted dramas, over scripted comedies, over anything else, because they're proven to go ahead and bring in viewers. I will say
I have the preliminary thing for the Chiefs versus Texans on Thursday Night Football. The preliminary rating is about a 5.4.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we have to wait for finals for.
But it is down from what we're seeing. Interest level is down. But we'll see, when it comes to this weekend and the first weekend of the NFL as far as the numbers overall. I did want to mention real quick, you talked about LA's Finest, the show with Jessica Alba and Gabrielle Union going to Fox. And you see, like we were talking about before with CBS, Discovery, whatnot. I really like the fact that they're showcasing these shows that were on smaller platforms and that they're bringing them onto a broadcast network, which to me, I think is a great idea. And I'm hoping that the audience will allow themselves to go ahead and check this stuff out, that one of these shows that they're bringing over from a smaller outlet will actually stick. I'm hoping that whether it's an LA's Finest, Star Trek Discovery, or whichever one of these shows, because now there's what, like a half a dozen or so across the broadcast networks that these shows have been brought over. I really would like to see one of those stick and stay as a mainstay on broadcast television going forward. I'd really like to see that. Would be a great story to me.
Well, yeah. Last but not least, we'll move on to the CW summer programming.
Oh boy, here we go.
Which is moved to fall. But the only show that is of interest would be the finishing up of the final season of Supernatural, which starts October 8th, returns October 8th, and is going to end on November 19th. Now, the rest of the lineup, the point ones of the lineup, Pandora, Swamp Thing, Two Sentence Horror Stories, it's currently running right now. Those are going to be on the fall schedule, which I probably won't be surprised if the ratings are not going to reflect it very well going forward for CW.
And that's the problem right now with CW, is that you have a lot of these shows that probably would be better suited just to go straight to HBO Max at this point in time. A lot of these, especially the DC end of it, just think with DC Unlimited and that network being pretty much phased out, it's still got content there, but it's pretty much phased out, and everything's shifted over to HBO Max. You've got Stargirl, you've got Doom Patrol, which just got renewed for season 3 on HBO Max. You've got all the stuff that could go over to HBO Max and find a larger audience, which leads me into my last thing is, should the CW still be even viable or still be even alive at this point in time? Because I know you and I have used it as a source of our jokes on my shows over the past 3 years now, seemingly, but it just seems like at this point in time now, in the age of where there's like 1,000 channels, that the CW is really, how much of a viable profit source is it at this point in time? I mean, it just seems ridiculous that they're willing to go ahead and take these 0.1s and 0.2s when they could probably put that show on an HBO Max and get a lot more viewers.
Well, yeah, I do agree that it's probably not going to be as viable as network presidents are claiming.
Because Warner Brothers, DC, I mean, let's take The Flash. The Flash is probably the most premier show right now on the CW network. I mean, just imagine if it was shifted towards HBO Max, because the priority is now becoming HBO Max for everybody at Warner Brothers right now. So, I mean, it just seems to me like the CW, they had their time in the sun. Well, actually, they didn't have their time in the sun because they've always been low rated, but they've had their opportunity. I think it's time to really look at viably closing down this. I mean, we've talked before about some of the networks that ABC has as far as in the back end, as far as ABC Family. There's just so many other small cable and broadcast networks out there that are just, you scratch your head on why they want to continually lose money year after year, because it just, them as a viable entry is getting less and less with each and every season.
And I think also too, with Viacom now having control of CBS, like, where's the bottom line?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's the point where streaming, more and more people are going to streaming. You see the numbers for Disney. I mean, their last porting, I think, was over 60 to 65 million. You see Netflix, which is closing in on 200 million. You see all the other streaming networks out there. HBO Max is touting its numbers. You see Peacock, which you and I had joked before, and Josh and I had, my co-host and I joked before on the name of it. But you know what? It's a viable network, and it's proving itself to be something. There are others like Quibi, which are struggling. Let's put it out there. CBS All Access, outside of the Star Trek stuff, is very much struggling. There's still ones out there that could be doing a lot better. Apple Even though that with the millions and billions and trillions now that they've got as a company, they're not putting enough into it. So you wonder about their viability going forward. So it just seems to me, with the emphasis on streaming networks, that some of these networks that are on cable and broadcast television need to reevaluate themselves, and maybe, because they're all owned by someone else. They're all owned by these large entities. So they really don't have
They
to stay
are.
they don't really have to stay in business, if they're not making money. I mean, they could make the call right away to go ahead and shut down this network, and I could shift any viable programming to a larger platform now, which is on usually a streaming format. Or, you know what? Like, for instance, ABC's or the Disney network. Let's say that the Disney stuff that's not on Disney Plus, or ABC. Shift some of that to both of those, because Disney Plus sorely needs content. ABC sorely needs content. Get rid of some of the Fox stuff or put some of the Fox stuff on Disney Plus and ABC. Right? Make those, condense. I mean, keep FX, because FX obviously is still hot, but FXX, some of these smaller state, networks that ABC has, keep them. I mean, their programming can go so much more, or do so much more as far as volume on other platforms. And I shake my head at why some of these networks are still in operation.
Oh yeah, you're telling me. I think the biggest failure for streaming networks right now, in my honest opinion, is Quibi.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing, you missed the point when it comes to Quibi with the short end.
Well, and they came out in the worst year possible. Obviously with coronavirus, they expected everything to be nice, everything to be fine. And, when it comes to, let's say Quibi would have come out last year in 2019. You're talking about the average person going out about the day, having only a few minutes to work out. So as far as what times they can go ahead and see it. So you'll be on your lunch break, Jessica. You're getting off work, you go on your lunch break. You'll have not 7 to 10 minutes to check out whatever latest programming that Quibi has. That was the idea. That was the concept. The problem is, again, it came out in time when there's record unemployment, things of that nature. Plus the fact that some of this stuff is just not clicking with audiences. Outside of the Kevin Hart film that was really well promoted, a lot of the stuff that they have, even the reboot of The Fugitive, it's just not getting in the fans to go ahead and check out Quibi. And I understand it has a lot of powerhouses behind it, like Jeffrey Katzenberg and all that, but it's just, whatever they're doing, it's just not enough. They just didn't they didn't have that one show or one movie to go ahead and say, you know what, we want you to go ahead and check it out. But the concept that they wanted to cater to you, not to me, I'm too old for them, but they were catering it to you, that they thought with your time, with all the busy things that you do, you would only have 7 to 10 minutes to watch TV a day, and to watch it with them. They gambled on you, and right now it's a gamble that they're not paying off on.
Well, yeah, and it's gotten to the kind of ending where you'll give your last thoughts. So, where can we catch all new episodes of PCC and PCC Multiverse?
Well, for everyone out there, PCC stands for right there or down below Pop Culture Cosmos. We are, I guess what you could say is we just cover the latest news and trends in pop culture every Monday and Friday, with new episodes popping up everywhere you get your podcasts under Pop Culture Cosmos. Our Friday show is also PCC, Pop Culture Cosmos, the PCC Multiverse. That is also on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. But if you want to go ahead and listen on radio, we're on over 30 radio stations worldwide. We truly appreciate everyone that goes ahead and gives us a listen. But yes, if you've been busy doing stuff, you're living life, and you haven't been able to check in what's going on with television, streaming, movies, video games, what have you, and you're out there, you want to know more about what's going on in pop culture, We put it all in one place, and we give you the latest updates. Plus, we have great interviews with tons of guests each and every year, including the young lady that's right next to me. She pops on every month and gives us her great TV updates. So if you want to go ahead and give us a chance, we truly appreciate it. Follow, subscribe, like, whatever you can do. Just check out Pop Culture Cosmos. Type it in wherever you get your podcasts, and we pop right up.
All right. I'd like to thank Gerald for stopping by today. And when we come back, I'll give some of my final thoughts or whatnot coming up on Jessica's show.